Welcome into another episode of 5 Guys in a 6-Pack, or as tonight we're looking at 4 guys in a 3-pack. Let's get it going. Awesome. Yeah, so welcome back, guys. Welcome back. This Cerberus Sports, second time hosting this bad boy. So thank you guys for coming on my channel and doing this stuff. Jonathan, I have the old intro, so we'll start with you. Sorry you're not in that bad boy. We need to get you flexing or doing a 500-pound deadlift. But how you doing, my man?
I'm doing pretty good tonight. No complaints. Blessed week so far. Just it's nice and sunny down here in Dallas. Been about 70 degrees both days. Starting to get a little warmer. But we got some nice cloud cover. Can't complain.
I know. I'm in Fort Worth, man. I'm showing off the thighs, man. Going the shorts out in the sun.
The sun's out.
How's Dallas life with the draft? No draft drama like there is in San Francisco or what's going on over there?
No real draft drama. We're just pretty much in a good position. We do this every year where we fill all our needs with one-year deals with free agents that no one else is really thinking about. So we don't have any glaring holes. So we're sitting at 24. We're sitting pretty. We can just pretty much fill best player available. They do a pretty good job over that last 2 years.
It's funny that you say that because I saw this online that like 7 out of the last 8 have made the Pro Bowl of their first-round picks because of just taking best player available. And so I think it's interesting kind of a draft strategy. Now, a lot of people thought they should take Parsons because they had a good linebacking core and ended up being defensive player of the year. Chewy, how you doing, my man?
Wait, hold on.
Oh, you want to talk about that?
What's going on with Jonathan? You got anything other than water you're drinking tonight? Because normally you got water, and then you got like a post. Nope. Yeah.
So I got the Carb Master milk from Kroger. I'm not sure how healthy it is, but it's a good amount of protein, low carbs, perfect amount of fat for a post workout. So that's what I'm drinking on tonight.
Like the dedication. Yeah. I like the dedication, man.
Appreciate it.
All right, Chewy, how's it going, my man? And welcome back into Cerberus Sports.
Appreciate it, man. Glad to be back. I was out the last couple of weeks, but we're here. Draft week, exciting. NFL still crazy, like one of the craziest off seasons I've seen in a long time. But sitting back here in Texas, enjoying the nice weather. That spring weather starting to roll in. Able to wear some shorts outside, play some golf, and drink some beer. So tonight we are with the Shiner, Texas. This is Orale, Mexican style cerveza. So,
nice.
There we go, Shiner, Texas. Anybody?
Shiner Bach.
Shiner up. That's some good stuff. That's what we're rocking with tonight. Some nice Mexican style light beer. Perfect time of the year for it.
Nice. And Crypto, thank you for coming back on, my man. The beard's looking ferocious. So you got Grogu in the background there. I like it. How you been, buddy?
I've been good. Man, I got a shout out to the neighborhood store. He told me to try this one out. We're gonna check that one out. But I got the backup of the Legion Space does. Want to say shout out to him. He's a New York Giants fan, and I told him I bag on his team constantly, especially when I get drunk. And he told me to get a 9%, so he knows what's coming. So here's to him.
Hey, they're going to pick up that 5th-year option, Daniel Jones. You should ask them about it. Like, hopefully for them, they don't pick up that option because
trade Daniel Jones to the Niners for Jimmy G.
Yeah, there you go. We got a great option for you, Giants fans. Jimmy G, he has a rebuilt shoulder, so it's like the Bionic Man. He will do wonders for you guys in New York. Y'all should come get him.
That's why we need to put a stop to all that talk. I really like DJ in the NFC East. We just keep him here for the next decade. That'd be nice. That would be nice. I play a lot of fantasy football with those defenses, and he's good for defensive points.
So I'm actually rocking the green tonight, Bay Area series, Bay Bridge series, with the Giants and the A's going on right now as we are recording Top of the second, still nothing. I went with a local one, Funky Picnic out of Fort Worth. It's an American IPA, 7%. And they always have the crazy names over there. And this one's called That Time Was the 80s, and that place was Orlando. So it's an American IPA. It's good. It has a nice color to it.
Florida.
Yeah. So let's get going here. Obviously, we have some draft stuff, but we're going to get going into the off season here because we talked about the NFC a couple of weeks ago. We're going to talk about the AFC today. Obviously, the hot button is the wide receivers going around. So let's start there. Top wide receivers taking a stand. And I find it very interesting, obviously, for the first round wide receivers have the fifth-year option. So a lot of this drama is with the second and the third round, being A.J. Brown, Deebo Samuel, and Terry McLaurin, all not showing up to the voluntary camp that they have going on, the voluntary workouts. They all haven't gotten paid yet or extended. Both Deebo and A.J. Brown have scrubbed their media. I don't know about Terry McLaurin so far. I have not seen it so far. And Deebo's officially asked for a trade. So a lot of drama going on here. Let's start with Crypto on this one. What do you think about this kind of atmosphere going in with these three big wide receivers, all essentially in the same position, two of them taking the same route, one of them taking something a little bit different?
Well, it's obviously posturing, of some sort. You know what I mean? What they're trying to do by posturing is different. You know what I mean? Like Deebo might be actually looking to get traded. What's Brown might be actually just looking to get paid. You know what I mean? He's like, hey, you got Julio Jones and you got me. Pay me. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm all you got. You're going to need me along with Derrick Henry and Tannehill. So there's no need to really pay anybody else. You know what I mean? I would just say, like he should be thinking like, pay me, draft a young guy. Okay. Because that keeps a young, talented guy on your team. And he's not chewing up your cap space for a couple of years. You know what I mean? So you don't have to worry about anything like that. It's not like they go, oh, rookie, you're doing a great job in your second year. Let's give you a raise. You know what I mean? So I think it's depending on what's Deebo's, and, that's to really kind of make it definite for me.
Should we go ahead and extend on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's wild. This is something we've never seen in the NFL. I think it kind of started last season. We had the quarterbacks doing this kind of thing. We had Russell Wilson. We had Aaron Rodgers last offseason, and they were posturing or really, making a push for a power play to kind of choose their destination, choose what's going to happen with them. This is something we see in the NBA all the time. This is not something that's really we see in the NFL. So these wide receivers doing this, it's pretty wild. I think eventually we are going to see another big name receiver before it's all said and done this offseason change addresses. We already saw Tyreek Hill. We already saw Devontae Adams. I think one more is probably on the move. I don't believe it's going to be before Thursday. I don't think anybody's going to get traded for a first-round pick in this year's draft. I think it's going to be a little bit later, maybe over the weekend. We might see something happen with some future draft picks. But these receivers, they ain't playing around anymore. They want to get paid. They know this is a pass-first league, and they got the power now. We got to thank Trent Baalke up in Jacksonville for dishing out that $20 million a year contract to Christian Kirk, because that kind of changed the game. And I think we're seeing it now. I mean, kudos to Trent Baalke, Jacksonville, screwing it up for the NFL like always, doing what they do. And this is the result. I mean, we're seeing – I don't even think it's really diva behavior anymore. It's just – I think this is kind of the new normal that we're going to start seeing going forward. And it's pretty different. So it's taken some getting used to, I think, especially around – hardcore, football fans who have never seen this type of thing in the NFL before.
Jonathan, does this kind of remind you of the Zeke thing? Obviously, there was video of him on the float having fun. He wanted to come, kind of enjoying his summertime like Deebo is, and you're seeing IG things of him at clubs and all that kind of stuff. And Zeke was prepared to hold out all the way till the end. That's before obviously the new CBA where they get fined an exorbitant amount of money. But does it kind of remind you that being a Dallas fan with these big receivers, wanting to get paid?
Yeah, Zeke did it the smart way, though. Zeke, when he was basically the engine of our team and the number one running back in the NFL at the time, he had that 3-year run from 2016 where the Cowboys weren't the Cowboys without Zeke, and he knew that. So when I believe in his third year, he went ahead and held out as opposed to waiting until that option year, which was smart because he just kind of grabbed us by a chance to, like, we didn't really have a chance to think about it. It was like, you got to pay him now because you can't just go without your main engine for in his third year. So that was pretty smart on his part. But Chewy kind of stepped on exactly what I was going to say. This is all a result of Christian Kirk. When you got a slot receiver getting top NFL money, it just started the chain reaction. Because now you got A.J. Brown.
Go Jaguars.
You're thinking we're the number one guys on our team, but we can't touch what he's making. Come on. Even Tyreek got more and had to leave town because of that Christian Kirk deal. I heard on the radio show that basically whenever Christian Kirk got that deal, GMs around the league were just pissed because they knew that this was the fallout. The last time I could think about something like this similar, and of course it wasn't the age of social media and the age of deleting your Instagram, was Dez Bryant, AJ Green, and Demaryius Thomas were all due for contracts at the exact same time. They were pretty much all waiting for one of the others to get paid. And then once Dez got paid, Demaryius Thomas and AJ Green fell right after him getting paid. So this could be a similar situation where we're all just waiting to see who's going to get paid. But I do feel like Debo is a little different because he's already requested a trade. But the right contract, I bet, can make that go away.
Do you see any fallout? Do you see any fallout from GMs around the league towards Jacksonville and Bulky over this at all? Anybody? I was just thinking about it when you brought that up. I'm like, oh, I wonder if somebody like, either decides they don't want to trade with him, like draft picks and whatnot, or just like, how would a team blackball another team essentially?
I'm not sure there's much action you can take. I mean, there's not like, because they're all a collective unit and they all have the same agreement. But I'm not sure what action you can take against another team other than running the score up, which shouldn't be too hard against Jacksonville.
Yeah, but I also think the top numbers are coming from the big names, right? So if you're trying to outdo one of the big names, then those were decided by Christian Kirk, right? And so it just depends on where these other receivers think they stand, right? I mean, Debo pretty much was our offense for the Niners, and I think he has the highest leverage because they're a Super Bowl roster. He was the highest percentage of that offense. The Titans have Derrick Henry. Washington, yeah, they're trying to make a playoff push, so maybe he has a lot of leverage because he's their best weapon. But I think Debo has the highest leverage of any of them. I don't really think much of them have leverage just because of how much money they get fined. But if somebody was to do this, I think Debo is the guy that's kind of going to set the market, and we're going to see it go right after. We saw it with Kittle and Kelsey. We saw it with Bakhtiari and Trent Williams. Trent Williams, like I just needed $10,000 more than him. I just wanted to be the number one paid guy. So like these guys, have that kind of mindset.
There's a couple guys that got extended already though. Like Tyreek got traded and got extended. Devontae Adams got traded and got extended. So there's already kind of like those are the top. I mean, I don't think we can argue. Besides maybe Cooper Kupp, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Deebo Samuel, they're probably like the top top 5. Throw in Jamar Chase maybe in that conversation. Those are like the top 5 receivers in the NFL, and 3 of them have already been paid. I mean, Cooper Kupp got paid last year. Devontae Adams this offseason. Tyreek Hill extended this offseason. So I think that's kind of already happened, but I'm a little surprised that the other ones like Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, and A.J. Brown, they haven't been signed yet. In my opinion, that market should have already been established. I just don't know what's going on with the other guys.
I have two predictions. I think I've heard that either 2 out of the 3 or all 3 of them are represented by the same dude. So you're waiting for the agents trying to like, who do I pick to get the first deal done? Or like, how's this going with each market? Or the other teams, is Debo's situation the most volatile? So I have to work on that because I got to get a trade in for him before
You're
Thursday.
Right,
yeah. And so like if they're all if it's either 2 out of 3 or all 3 are represented by the same guy. So
it's It's Debo, AJ Brown, and then they share the agent with DK Metcalf as well. So it's the same guy that does all three of those guys.
Makes sense. No,
and he could be pushing for Debo to get paid first, because you can make a case saying that AJ Brown isn't worth as much as Debo. You know what I mean? So you could definitely make a case for that. So you'd want Debo to essentially set the market. So then you could then say, okay, AJ Brown is right below it. You know what I mean? Instead of you trying to figure out where you put AJ Brown around everybody else. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I mean, you're looking at AJ Brown had 1,000 yards, over 1,000 yards, 869, but he's had just as much injury problems with the hamstrings and stuff like that. I think you could, depending on the team, I'm looking at this way as far as, the Debo situation, or maybe even any of these guys, the fact that they're taking the stand the year before, the leverage they do have is essentially, if they say, hey, I'm not signing with an extension with whatever team is making this offer, the offer goes away. I mean, you saw AJ Brown got traded to Buffalo, and a day later, it was like, oh, the trade is no longer happening because AJ Brown said, I will not sign with you guys. And the trade went away. And so if the Lions offer 3 first-round picks based on Debo extending, and like he's like, no, I don't want to play for Detroit, like he can kind of dictate a little bit of the leverage based on saying that he won't resign. So it'll be interesting how this thing all works out. Let's go with the same kind of tone, changing the balance of power. Obviously, a lot of fans get mad at the players. We've seen Raheem Mostert and Debo get threats here and there and all this kind of stuff like that. But the NFL isn't the first and only sport where a lot of these players are going online and kind of having brands of their own. Debo sells shirts with wide back on them. He's always on social media. Same thing with a lot of these basketball guys, and it's starting to change where even in hockey, these guys have like these reputations of having their own brand. And so is it changing the power with modern technology to where these players are kind of forcing their hand based on social media? Chewy, you want to start with this one? You're muted.
There we go. Rookie mistake. My bad. So, I kind of touched on it on the first answer. This kind of started all last season, I think. I mean, it started with Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, having their contract disputes with their respective teams. We saw this offseason that resulted in Russell Wilson going to a different location. He'll be, in Denver this year. And then Aaron Rodgers' situation resulted in the richest contract in NFL history, $50 million a season, right? So they kind of flexed their muscles last year. It didn't get done last year, but then this year we see movement going on with those two players. And now we're seeing it from the wide receiver standpoint this season, where we have like the top dog wide receivers. These aren't like, Pro Bowl level, bottom Pro Bowl level wide receivers. These is the top of the top in the NFL this season. Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Deebo Samuel, those three were all pros this year. So they're the top of the top, and we're seeing them start to flex their muscles. So I think we are starting to see a shift. To me, what really is playing into it is this is going to be the start here in the next couple of seasons of the revenue for the NFL just exploding. They're about to be getting that new Amazon TV contract. Salary caps are going to go up exponentially over the next 3 to 4 years. And I think players know that. The agents know that. And the players are starting to flex their muscle now. They kind of see an opportunity where once teams are investing that much money in a single player, the power dynamic has to shift. That player is that much more valuable to that franchise. And they're going to really have a lot more say in what's going on than I think they have in the past, because players have not been paid as much as they're going to start being paid from now on.
Jonathan, what do you think about that?
Definitely tend to agree with everything Chewy just said. But when it comes to the quarterbacks, they've always had this power to basically move mountains. If you think back about Carson Palmer, when he didn't want to play for Cincinnati anymore, and then they kind of wanted to bite on him and say, we don't believe you. And he said, okay, cool, I'll just retire. and then they had to.
What about the quarterback club back in the day with like Aikman and all them talking about they wanted all the money? That was the thing. They had to get all the money. They had to be paid. So with quarterbacks, it goes way back.
Exactly. So you'll always have the power of flexing by the quarterbacks, and that's why I'm glad he mentioned Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson both getting what they wanted, because they do have that authority. And I believe Ocho Cinco even said this probably about 10 years ago, that we don't have the power as receivers or skill positions, but the quarterbacks, when they get together, they will always have that power. And as far as the online presence increasing from the players, I remember 2020 during the whole kind of the racial movement and the progressive movement that was going on, the NFL had a pretty, I don't want to say like laid back stance when it came to the Black Lives Matter and the protests and things like that. But once Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson and everybody jumped on their Instagram and jumped on their social media and started talking about it, the NFL, I don't want to say they had to move, but they started listening. And then all of a sudden you had the end zones painted, and you had before the game, them locking arms and everything. And that was a result of the players and their online presence. So I do see us.
Wasn't that Jay-Z? I thought that was mainly because of Jay-Z and almost like a business deal.
I'm not sure on that. I haven't done much research on the Jay-Z angle, but I know that whenever Patrick Mahomes and all those players jumped on Instagram and released that video, the NFL was right behind them and pretty much moving on it too. But that's kind of the online presence, touching on that piece. But when it comes to the contracts and the player power, I feel like the quarterbacks have always had that. And now with the receivers starting to make more and more money and getting more and more as far as the single positions getting paid, that they also will have that power moving forward.
Crypto, you want to add on to that?
Yeah. Welcome to the NBA, gentlemen. I'm just saying, this is now the NBA. Okay. It's probably about 5 years till we get some super team action going on. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to start their own draft portal. You know what I mean? This is the new thing. This is how it's going from head first, or how it's going from now on. And I think teams need to get in front of this, and they need to find a way to not necessarily combat, but work fluidly with players in certain situations to help them both. You know what I mean? So
the league in the NBA has something that does that. It's called the Supermax contract. So you are only allowed to sign a Supermax with a team that drafted you. So if there was something that you could put in the CBA where if you extended your contract with the team that drafted you, and you could get paid essentially, 5% more, cap free. Like, so you could get 5% of that doesn't get involved in the cap, or 10% or whatever they want to make it. If you get drafted by the team and you continue re-signing with them, so the team can pay you more and not have to worry about a portion of your contract going underneath the cap, then, it would incentivize teams to re-sign players.
I like that.
What do y'all think about it? I mean, we mentioned like the money, Jonathan and me, about, hey, that's really what's driving this. Jonathan kind of mentioned social media presence now with some of these players. This is a new generation coming in. These are younger players. They grew up in social media. Obviously, the old guard in the NFL is trying to learn social media and play catch up from the younger generation. Like, is that more of a thing where the NFL kind of got taken by surprise, do you think, with the whole social media and the way news is really spread nowadays? Or is it just the money? I mean, what do you guys think? To me, I think it comes down to dollars and cents. All of these owners of these teams are billionaire owners. They're worried about the bottom line. They're worried about making money. And to me, that's always going to drive every decision. But do you guys think something like social media is also playing a factor into it?
I think
so.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Jonathan.
No, I think it all falls in the same bucket. So if you look at social media and the power that it drives dollars, and it drives corporations. If certain corporations are fearful of losing money because of a movement on social media, they have to react to it. I know that I want to say when the Adrian Peterson deal happened with his son, and he gave a speech in front of a one of the sponsors. Then all of a sudden online, people start talking about boycotting that sponsor. So that social media moved the NFL into putting him on that non-exempt list. So I think that type of power is always going to be there, and they both fall in that same bucket as far as dollar and cents, because they both pretty much affect the money of the NFL.
I also think that, you know, you have a whole bunch of rich people, okay, who think that they are the people that run things, right? And when the situation gets taken out of their hands, they're not used to it. So I think this is what you're seeing. I think you're seeing a whole bunch of old white men who are used to having everything their way and done their thing, and people are just saying, nah, we want our comeuppance, we want our stuff, give it to us now. It's not their way of dealing with it. And I think this, like the Debo situation, this is the stutter. This is the because you were caught off guard because you're used to doing everything your own way, and now it's not working. You know what I mean? So this is them. You know, they definitely will overcome this, and I think social media is just the medium. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily that it has to be social media. If there was that, you know, at some point social media isn't going to be the thing it is now. There'll be something else that kind of takes its form in some sort of way, and then they will be using that also at the same time. You know what I mean? So 40 years ago they would have been talking to the newspapers. You know what I mean? They would have been talking to the newspaper. What's up?
I said I don't think they would have. I think the fact that and also we don't even know if this is working or not. It hasn't worked yet for Kyler Murray in his situation. It didn't, like Devontae Adams didn't really scrub anything. He actually said I was going to be a Packer as long as Aaron Rodgers was there, and that wasn't true. And it hasn't worked for Debo yet. The Niners have all the control.
Well, the Devontae Adams thing is different.
No, I'm just saying, yeah, a lot of these players are getting big money. A lot of these players are driving trades into new locations. But as far as the social media aspect, we're not sure if it's even working yet. It didn't work for Kyler, and we're not even sure if it's working for Debo Samuel. And I think you also look at a lot of the fans, it's turning that said player against them. You know, I mean, they're like, oh, well, if he's being a Debo, or he's doing this, or they're all rich or whatever. And I think that it was the status quo to believe that the organization was always going to do right by the organization, but it was wrong for the player to do right by the player, right? We don't know. I mean, just like in the Kittle situation, they call it the Valentine's Day Massacre because they lowballed him so badly that Kittle walked away from negotiations for a little bit. You know, like we don't know how this thing started or what the offer was from the Niners or any of these other star wide receivers. But as far as the social media aspect is concerned, the brand level hasn't shown to be effective yet in the NFL to getting a new deal or enforcing a trade yet. We'll see if Debo can be the first one to kind of force his hand through the fans to get him a trade. But it's interesting to see how much of these brands impact the player's popularity and how they're used.
Couldn't you say that Russell Wilson was the first one to kind of force his trade?
No, he said he's like, these are the teams I'm willing to trade to, and you can find, and if you can make out a deal, like there was that talk that he wanted out, and they were like, no, everything's good. But it wasn't a thing. It wasn't, yeah, I want out, but they got offered by Washington, and he said no to going to Washington. So it wasn't like he wanted out and I'll go anywhere. He still wanted.
Yeah, he actually played the season last year, even though he had said he wanted out. The player who really didn't and ended up getting traded this offseason as well was Deshaun Watson, because Deshaun Watson said he wanted out, and then he didn't play, and that wasn't really necessarily all his decision probably, but he didn't play, and then he still got what he wanted in the end of it. He got traded
because they would have dealt him. They would have dealt him. They could have.
So where do you guys think? I mean, do you mind, Randon, staying on this a little bit? Like, what do you guys think this is gonna lead to? Do we think like things are really gonna change, or do we think these guys are kind of throwing a hissy fit? They're gonna be put in their place. They're gonna end up, just things are gonna go back to normal, or do you guys think this is like the new normal that we're gonna see going forward?
I tend to agree with what Brandon just said as far as the kind of getting annoyed by the deletion of pictures on Instagram. It's kind of a high school girl drama. So that's going to get old after a while. I know that Shanahan in San Francisco, he feels like no matter who it is, he can plug someone else in and pretty much produce that same. So if he does that,
Debo, God damn,
Debo's out, right? And he's able to make up that production with Eli Mitchell and Brandon Ayuk. Well, now Debo just kind of looks bad for sitting out. But I can't see this being.
Ayuk doesn't run the same sweep.
I understand.
The sweep doesn't look the same. It's not.
Debo is
more rigid. It's not as sly. He's not getting as many yards. I'm telling you.
What if Debo goes to the Jets and he has Zach Wilson and then he's not Debo Samuel anymore? Like, you don't know that it's not just Debo.
Hey,
and I think the thing that the infatuation that fans have because of how much they buy jerseys and all this kind of stuff is that they believe that this player is irreplaceable. When the fact is there's a price for everybody. And if the Jets or any other team throws in 2 firsts and a second and whatever, it's going to make it – right now the Niners are saying, hey, we don't have to trade Debo Samuel. Come and get him. If you really want him, overpay for him. And that happens sometimes. Yep. You saw what Deshaun Watson got, right? So it happens in that aspect. And, yeah, sure, anybody's tradable at that point. If Kyle Shanahan's the genius that everybody thinks he is and he thinks he is, then he can adjust his offense to fit his new pieces that he'll get in the draft or what have you. And you don't need to have the same offense as last season.
Yeah, Ryan, I agree with Randon there because you look at Russell Wilson. I mean, Russell Wilson made Seattle, and he's carried Seattle way more than Debo Samuel did for the 49ers ever. And he even was able to be moved. You know, he was traded. So if that player can be traded, Debo Samuel is just a wide receiver at the end of the day. He's going to be great at whatever team he goes to, but I mean, they can move on from any player. I mean, we've seen it before with the 49ers.
I'm not saying they can't. What I'm saying is that you don't just go take Mitchell and Brandon Ayuk and go there. That replaces that whole part of the offense because it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. But you know what adds to this stream? Bay Area ball in the house.
Oh, look at him.
Hey, what's up, fellas?
Cheers.
Hey, sorry
What'd you drink
I'm
it on?
late. Hey, I got something good. I got a new beer. Let's see if I can get in here. 805. Let's see. It's brewed. It's hard to work it, but it's 805. It's brewed. Man, I'm really loving this one. It's got a hint of brewed with lime. It's like my new favorite beer. I just discovered it, so maybe I'm late to the party. But I heard some Zach Wilson slander going down, so I was lurking. So then I had to hop in because I was man. If Debo does go to the Jets, I mean, I think Zach Wilson's better than Jimmy Garoppolo, or will be. I think Zach's going to continue to get better. I've told you guys this. So if he went
Debo
there,
would be great for Zach right now. Quick pass.
Oh yeah,
get it out of his hand.
Eli Moore. They got Braxton Berrios. They got
like
Corey
saying,
Davis.
Like, if I train for a little bit, I can dunk on an 8-foot hoop. That's not that hard to do, my man.
You were saying that he wasn't going to be the same, though, Randon. And I'm saying, hey, he can do the same thing, if not more, because he can get farther down the field with Zach Wilson at times.
All I was saying is that nobody's untradeable. Wayne Gretzky's the best hockey player of all time, and he got traded twice. So, I mean, nobody's untradeable for the right price. You know what's funny? I watched this. I don't know how many of you guys are hockey fans, but he was on Spinning Chicken, which is a big hockey podcast. And Wayne Gretzky, back in the days, you know, he said they just threw a lot of things in randomly in contracts. And his agent worked in that if any hockey team in Southern California within 300 miles ever blooms in that city, he would get 10% ownership of the company. And he's like, no, that's never going to happen. And look at the Ducks and the Kings got this. So that agent was smart, and Gretzky turned it down.
I saw that special on Wayne Gretzky that ESPN had. That was pretty interesting. Like, I was not aware that like he was that big of a star. I mean, I was young at the time, right, when Wayne Gretzky was actually playing, but I did not understand how big of a star he was. And then for him to get traded pretty much in his prime, that's just unheard of. Best player in the league, right? Best player of all time, probably.
He's the best player in hockey, yeah. He's the only player to have his jersey number retired across hockey. I mean,
hockey wasn't even like a really big sport in America, especially, let's just say in California where I was at, right, at the time when he got traded. It wasn't a really big thing. But for weeks, that's only anything anybody could talk about. You know what I mean?
Hey, we got 3 Mighty Ducks movies out of that. because Wayne Gretzky went to LA. So that alone tells you enough.
I love the Mighty Ducks.
Yeah. It's so funny now that I know a lot about hockey. It's like they're horrible. Like the choreography is horrible now that I know hockey and watch hockey. But the movies
bullshit.
are
I'm waiting on the knuckle puck. I'm waiting on somebody to whip out the knuckle puck in a clutch situation. It's gonna come through. It's just you need like that second and a half to set it up. That's hard to get, but if you can get it, knuckle puck time. Let's get it.
Toe pick. You remember that? Cutting edge.
Yeah.
I was about to say, and that one dude that could only hit the net like what 3 out of 10 times or something.
Yeah. You just Bash Brothers, people taking shirts off. So let's get into the new topic here. New success. Obviously, we have a lot of free agents. You can choose skill player, which a lot of people think of. But which trade or free agent going to their new team is going to have the most impact on their new team? Maybe not the most success in the terms of wins, but the highest impact to their team. Bay Area.
Yeah. I appreciate that because I probably can't stick around too long. But you know what? I got one, and I'm looking at the Super Bowl champions. They didn't make too many moves, but they got fucking Bobby Wagner. All right. That's been the weakness of the Rams defense, has been that linebacking core. The Niners can run the ball efficiently more often than not. That's why they've had a lot of success, except for this past NFC Championship game. But now they got Bobby Wagner. Like, come on, man. They got one of the best linebackers in the NFL. And, I mean, that's making a weakness now a strength. So that's the one that's popping out at me.
Jonathan, who would you want to bring up?
Said he can't play both sides.
Well, I mean, what do you want? They got a good offense too on that side of the ball.
No, I'm talking about like he can't play both sides linebacker. You know what I mean? He's got to be on one side. You know what I mean?
I got you. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, someone I was thinking about a little bit off the beaten path was MVS. He's always been on the edge of a breakout player in Green Bay. Now you get him with Patrick, who can run around, kind of improvise a little bit, and isn't scared to just fling it downfield. He may fill into that number one spot in Kansas City, because Juju is a different skill set completely than what he has. So he'll always be the one stretching the field. And knowing Mahomes, he's always going to take that YOLO ball and throw it down there. He might catch a few of them. He's always been streaking wide open in Green Bay, but it seems like the second half of the play just never comes through for him. So I think he may end up being something in Kansas City, especially with Tyreek not being there. And you'll have him and McCole Hardman just stretching the field with Mahomes winging it out to him every once in a while.
And Crypto? Chewy? Go ahead, Chewy.
All right. So I got two players, and they're both out of the AFC West. So I think defensively, Khalil Mack, man, going to the Chargers, that's going to be wild. When you have Joey Bosa on one side, you have a strong secondary behind them, and then you put Khalil Mack in there. I think people are forgetting how good this guy is. I mean, this guy at one point was considered the best defensive player in the league. That was before Aaron Donald hit his stride, right after J.J. Watt kind of started his decline, because of the injuries. Khalil Mack there for a minute was like considered the best defensive player in the NFL. And he's really not all that old. I think he's like 32 years old. So he still has a lot of good football left in him. And you put him opposite side of Joey Bosa, I think he's going to get a lot of single one-on-ones, and it's going to make for some fireworks. I think he's going to have a huge year. And then on the offensive side of the ball, we're going to stay in the AFC West. I just like the supporting cast and what they've built over there in Las Vegas. I mean, Devontae Adams, you give him a real good quarterback in Derek Carr, who has Darren Waller, has a strong run game. I mean, Devontae Adams to me is going to take that team over the top. And AFC West is probably the best division of football this coming season. Looking for big things with those two players.
All right.
So I think it's definitely not Zach Wilson or Ray McLeod, because they just aren't legit players. Just joking, Bay Area. But you can come back in. I'd really appreciate it. No, I think it's Matty Ice. It's Matty Ice. I think it's Matty Ice. He's going to be plug and play. He's going to have some time behind that line. They were just one piece away at the Colts from getting there, I think, to really having a good shot. and I think Matt Ice is going to do it for him. I think they're going to. I almost went Russell Wilson. But I have a feeling that Matty Ice is. He's got, maybe 1, maybe 2 years left, and I think this is his last year to really shine, and I think he's going to put it all in one basket. You know what I mean? And let's go. So, Matty Ice.
I think it depends what they do, what else they do in the offseason. I think getting him puts them one piece away now. I still think they need something on the outside. Michael Pittman Jr. is good.
A late run. You know what I mean? I feel with them, but with another couple pieces, they could actually win it.
Yeah, I have 2 here. I think my number 1 for offense is going to be Amari Cooper, and I think you're looking at the pass attack, and he's, I think, just a very underrated receiver, one of the best route runners in the NFL. Not that Dak Prescott ain't a good quarterback, but there was a lot of other options there. He's the only option in Cleveland, and so I think that with Watson there, Watson's going to want to prove the league that this was all a mistake, and he's going to come in on fire. And I think Mark Cooper's going to have the best season of his career at 28. I'm calling like 1,400 and over 10 touchdowns for Amari Cooper this year. And, I think that he could definitely do that on a team, as run heavy with a good offensive line and him being the only option as a wideout. Yeah. And then defensively, I'm going to toot my own horn. Stephon Gilmore, who I called going to the Colts.
That was a good call by you, I must say. Congratulations.
Yeah. So I think the fact that their turnover differential, they were one of the best in the league. This makes their defense that much better. Having a solid number 1 corner over there, they've invested on the other side as well. And they're a run-first team. So with the fact that they have a nice turnover differential and they run the football, they're going to be in a lot of games this season. And that division isn't the strongest. And so I think that they could put together a pretty good season. I mean, the Colts were right there halfway through the year and then just fell apart. I think with your pick, Ryan, and Matty Ice, and as well as Stephon Gilmore, I think that defensively looks good there. I would probably spend 2 picks on a wide receiver this season because Chewy's right. They do need help on the outside. I think I think Pittman can be elite. I think we'll see his downfield threat and his ball skills that much better with Matt Ryan, but take 2 shots at wideout on the other side in this draft, who is supposedly deep with wide receivers, and see if you can get some other guys to gel. I know Paris Campbell's been heavily injured. You have Gigantor and Mo Alley Cox. The guy's like 7'8", and with ginormous hands at tight end, because Tiny Hands Doyle is now retired. And I think that offense might take that next step with the rushing champion, Jonathan Taylor.
A player I'm kind of surprised no one mentioned was Chandler Jones going to Vegas. It's kind of in that same vein as Khalil Mack. I feel like people forgot about him, but he's still a guy that can get double-digit sacks. And playing across from Max Crosby, that should be an amazing defense to watch. So,
I know I'm supposed to hate the Raiders and everything, but they're making some good moves over there. I mean, I can't discount the moves they're making. I think they're going to be very competitive in that division.
Do you think Green Bay gets Waller?
No, they're not.
Why would they do that?
Yeah, they can get rid of him.
I guess they were trying to do that deal before, but somehow the rules wouldn't let them do it. So I guess it was on the table beforehand. So the Raiders were down to do it beforehand. So the Raiders might do it to get more draft capital.
But why would they do that if they're trying to push in that division? You don't go out and get Devontae Adams in the tail end of his career to rebuild. Like, that doesn't make sense. And extend Derek Carr. So like, what would be the point of giving away arguably the second or third best tight end in the league for picks? Like, picks are
if you know something we don't.
What, that he doesn't want to resign now? This is the best team that he's had. This is the best chance that Wallace had to win. Like, why
I'm
would
just
he leave?
saying, if you know something and you're like, this guy isn't going to be good much longer, you want the draft.
I have to agree with Randon there. I mean, just based on the moves that they've made, they're in win now mode. You don't get rid of a top 3 player at a position when you're in win now mode. They're trying to win, and they need him if they're going to really be serious contenders.
And who do they have? Who's the other guy? So you have Adams, and then you have.
So would that be the same with Debo?
Hunter Renfrow.
Hunter Renfrow, in the slot. And then Josh Jacobs in the backfield, Waller on offense. I mean, that offense is stacked.
God, something smells good.
But I mean, the only way is if contracts extensions go by or whatever, and Waller doesn't get his bag. But I haven't heard anything about that, and I don't think they'd trade him to the Packers for no reason. I mean, so unless there's contract negotiations that are going bad that we don't know about or that haven't been expressed, but you would think they would be by the agent or something. I mean,
he would have scrubbed them on social media already.
Seems to be the MO. All right, let's go to draft trade. So obviously, lots of moves. I mean, the Niners, I believe, in 2020 moved for every single one of their picks, and so draft trades are the huge thing. Obviously, either for players like Deebo Samuel or during the day to move up, like last year for Trey Lance. Which teams do you think maybe will be the most aggressive in moving up into this draft? And then which teams maybe will sit back and try to acquire more picks and maybe be a little bit more, conservative? Anybody want to take this one?
I'll say first. Team I'm looking at is Pittsburgh. They seem to be enamored with Malik Willis. If you watch Malik Willis's pro day, I believe Mike Tomlin was over his right shoulder, just staring him down, and he couldn't hide the excitement that he had for him. They need a quarterback. They have Mitch Trubisky, but I don't think anyone's just fooling themselves into thinking that he's going to be the guy for the next decade. Malik Willis has done everything right off the field, and he seems like that leader in the locker room. There's been talk of him sliding in the draft because it's not a great quarterback draft. And Pittsburgh is picking 20. Maybe they move up if they see him get to a certain point that they feel comfortable, and they hop up 10 picks to go get Malik Willis. And
the over/under for Vegas right now is 10.5. Just so you know,
10.5.
Where he's going to be drafted. Yeah,
where he gets drafted. Perfect little angle for them to swoop up and grab him if he starts that slide. If he gets past Carolina, and the team that I'm thinking can move back. If you're looking at Seattle right now, they're picking at 9, and they have a team full of needs. They need everything on the team. And they're rebuilding, so they may be in the mood to just go ahead, jump back. Maybe Pittsburgh moves up to 9 to grab Malik Willis, and they sit back and go to 20, and they just build draft capital for the future for their rebuild. Poor Pete Carroll, he's 79 years old, but he's going to have to sit back for this rebuild, it looks like, with Drew Lock for a couple of years.
So, yeah. So I don't really see a lot of movement. I see everybody wanting to move down and nobody wanting to give up their lower spots. I don't see anybody really wanting to move up except for maybe someone going to grab a quarterback. Maybe moving up in the second round. You know what I mean? But I see everybody wanting to trade down to get more picks because it's so deep. And I don't see a lot of people wanting to move up because they know they can just wait till later and they can wait till their pick, keep capital, and get a decent player at that spot. So I don't see a lot of movement till maybe starting like the second round, the third round. Yeah.
So I see a couple things happening. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of trades going on, especially round 1 this year. One team I think that's going to be very aggressive and moving up is the Miami Dolphins. I think that they've shown this offseason Mike McDaniel is not messing around out there. I think he's been uber aggressive, and I see that continuing in the draft, him and Chris Greer out there in Miami. I think they're going to be very aggressive and moving up in the draft. They're going to try to get Tua Tagovailoa as many weapons as they can. They've already done that. I think they're going to probably try to get some help on the defensive side of the football, but I see them as a team that's been super aggressive all offseason. I don't see it changing in the draft. I think they're going to make some moves and surprise some people. A team that should be aggressive, that I don't think is going to be aggressive, but they should be, is the Chicago Bears. They really need to do something, help Justin Fields out. I, for some reason, don't think they're going to be, even though they should be. Now, a team that's going to trade down, and I think it's going to surprise a lot of people just because they're in a rebuild mode, is the New York Jets. I think the Jets are sellers, and I think they're going to be trying to move down. I know they have, the 4th pick and the 10th pick or something. I think they're going to try to move down, probably take the 4th pick, but then they're going to use the 10th pick to try to move down in the draft and try to acquire some more assets so they can continue to build that roster out. So I think that's going to surprise some people because they're expecting the Jets to make super aggressive moves, but trading down is not always a passive move. I think it could be an aggressive move because they're trying to stockpile assets to fill out their roster.
Does anybody see team trading up to like the 4th round or the 4th overall pick or something like that?
Not in this draft. I don't see the value of
See,
it.
because when you said that, I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. They keep the 4th because also the 10th, you don't have to give as much capital up for it. You know what I mean? As what a 4th would be. So it's kind of like it's a better buyer's market. You know what I mean? Like, we're not going to be able to sell this 4th, but we might get a buyer for the 10th.
I know, that's why I said it, Ryan, man. Come on.
Yeah.
Look, I'm taking notes. My bad. I'm thinking out loud.
Yeah, I think I agree with Chewy that the Jets could just be aggressive in their trades, whether it's trading back or trading forward. They also have 35, 38, and 69. And so they have, they can make a lot of moves. They can get back into the first round and have 3 guys that all with 5th-year options, and if they hit on all 3 of those guys, that could jumpstart their franchise. Kansas City's got 2 picks in the back half of the first. So teams that are trying to get into the first round, they could be candidates to trade back because the fact that their team is pretty much loaded. They don't need those first round picks, so they can move back and kind of get some extra spots there. And especially with the cap hit of Patrick Mahomes is going up, you need a lot more guys that are under lower contracts. And so I think that could be an option for them. As far as maybe an aggressive team like coming up into the first round, I think there's, we're talking about maybe draft sliders is some of these positions that maybe aren't desirable skill positions. You might see some team come up and, hey, like maybe we need an offensive line piece, or we need, Scene as a safety, and something like that to come in and kind of just fill our roster in that specific need if those players tend to drop. So it could be something interesting there. Those teams, might be something that, they have a mid-second round. They offer this year's second plus next year's second and move up or vice versa there. So we'll see how that goes, but there's always movement, and I think there's going to be plenty of movement here. The reason being is that what Ryan said is that a lot of scouts are saying there's a clear top 15, 16 first-round talent, and then a lot of people have mixed grades on a lot of these other guys. And then with COVID allowing players to spend an extra year, the rounds 2 through 5 are a lot more jam-packed than there used to be. And so you can see a lot of movement, I think maybe not in the first round, but definitely in the middle rounds moving up because, hey, we have a second-round grade on this guy, or we have a first-round grade on this guy, and he's available at 51. Like you look at a lot of guys had first-round grades on DK Metcalf, and he fell to, 64? So, those types of things I think will happen in the second round, and we'll see a lot more action on day 2 when your guy that you had a first-round grade on, or you would have taken in the top 15, falls to 45 or 50, and you want to make that jump up. It happens every year with players who slide, and that's where we'll cue into our next question. Biggest surprises in the draft. Who do you think maybe will get taken too early? Who do you think will fall out of the first and into that second round, like we mentioned? Let's flip it back the other way. Let's go, Chewy. Why don't you start this one?
I don't really have a specific player who I think is going to be a slider. Obviously, number one, they're talking about, a player who has been mocked in the 14 to 15 range that now Trent Baalke is in love with, apparently edge rusher, Trayvon Trayvon Austin. Yeah. So they're talking about he's potentially now going to be the number 1 overall pick in this draft. And him and Shad Khan are not seeing eye to eye.
Walker, not Austin.
Trayvon Walker. Yeah, he's
Trayvon
a
Walker.
monster.
Sorry.
Yeah, he's a
Trayvon
monster.
Walker. Yeah.
He tested crazy.
So he went crazy at the combine. He was mocked though, like around 13 to 16 in that range before all of the combine, and now he's considered maybe the favorite to be the number 1 overall pick. So that to me is a little bit of a surprise. The second surprise to me is going to be that there's going to be only 1 quarterback in this draft taken in the first round. That's something that hasn't been seen in a while. I know there was the one draft with Geno Smith, who he was the first quarterback off the board. It wasn't until round 2, or was it the last pick of the first round? I don't remember. But usually, there's 3 to 4 quarterbacks taken in the first round. I think there's going to only be 1 quarterback taken in the first round of this draft. We all know, I think, who that's going to be. But to me, he's probably going to be not picked till about 6 to 10 range. And then there will be no more quarterbacks taken in the first round of this draft.
You're taking the over on the 10.5 then, huh?
No, I'm taking the under. I think he's going to be in like the 6 to 10 range, and that he's going to get drafted in the 6 to
That's
10.
what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm taking he's going to get drafted higher than that, I think. But that's going to be the only one going.
All right, Ryan, what do you think, my man?
I think Tyler Lindenbaum's going to come off the page real early. I'd say top 15. You know what I mean? And for a center, that's big. You know what I mean? Usually tackles only go this high. So, but I see people not being able to move down, forcing them to pick who they really want wherever they're at. So
I think that's a condition of this is not a top heavy draft either. I think it's a very, even. It's a deep draft, but there's not like the outliers at the top like there usually is.
Yeah. Like half the people in the first round actually deserve to go in the first round.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you said on Tyler Lindenbaum. He's a guy who, if you watch his tape and see his measurables, he's as sure as thing as an interior lineman as Quentin Nelson. But when you look at the arm length and you look at the size, that's the only thing that hurts him and it's going to drive him back. But he's going to be an all-pro for the next 10, 15 years. And some team is going to be smart enough to pick him. I always hope that team that's picking at 24 is smart enough to pick him. So we'll see what happens there. Big Dallas guy here, if you haven't guessed. But for me, Malik Willis, agreeing with Chewy, I think he's going to go a lot higher than people are thinking right now. You look at Trey Lance last year, no one saw him going 3. It was supposed to be Josh or Justin Fields or Mac Jones if you listen to Chris Sims. So I think Malik will have a similar path to the NFL. Some GM's going to fall in love with his measurables. If you watch that pro day where he ran to the left and then threw the ball 70 yards to the right or whatever it was crazy. Somebody's going to fall in love with that, and they're going to pick him up there pretty high in that top 5, I believe, especially if you're thinking you can get the next Russell Wilson for the next, let's say, 10, 12 years. And then as far
as Carolina. That's
Carolina. I keep hearing Carolina wants Pickens, though, so I don't know. Maybe they're going to run a bunch of fake slides there. But I'm thinking about as far as the faller, and I hate to be negative on the guy. I definitely don't want to be negative. But Kyle Hamilton, he's I like that flex little bicep action. That was nice. But I'm thinking Kyle Hamilton, he's a safety out of Notre Dame. He's been drafted or mocked top 5 for the past year. It's supposed to be this amazing hybrid safety, but when he went to his pro day or combine, I believe he ran a 4.7. So that's going to hurt him a little bit and make him look like more of a box guy, and then box safeties just don't go that high. So he may fall, but I still believe he's going to be an all-pro and an amazing player in the NFL, but he may be the slider while Malik Willis is the guy that goes a little higher than people expected.
Yeah, that kind of piggyback off that. I think that Lewis Dean will be the first safety taken in the draft, not Kyle Hamilton.
Lewis is a monster too. If you watched a lot of the Georgia games last year, you saw him coming downhill and just blowing guys up, and that's going to be important in the NFL. So, and he's a young guy too, super young. I think he may be 20 or so. So
really.
And I think Jameis Williams out of Alabama will still be the number 1 wide receiver taken, even with the ACL.
Oof. You got to have a little patience there, but if you have patience, you could have one of the better receiver prospects in years.
So where do you think he's going? Outside the top 10 or inside the top 10, Brandon?
Looking at the draft board, let me look at it real quick. Just kind of
or at number 10 by a certain team.
The Jets, the Jets need a wide receiver, or the Niners do if Devo gets traded. But I think the Niners would be a perfect team to take him, right? You have Ayuk, you have Kittle, who's a pass catcher, you have Jennings, and so
he has a blown ACL. Of course, he'd be perfect for the Niners.
Yeah, but
the Jags,
Yeah, the Jags.
Maybe they'll just take him number 1 overall.
ACLU over there. But I still think
restructure his rookie contract to give him $28 million a year.
So I think that he just offers so much stuff, and he's just incredible, and I think that you look at you look at his unmeasurables. I just think that teams you're not drafting for the first 4 weeks, and he's already working out, by the way. So you're not drafting for the first 4 weeks. You're drafting for the rest of his career, and if you feel like if he has the highest ceiling, then you take that, because all the teams drafting in the top 10 aren't playoff teams this year, for the most part, right? Maybe Carolina if Darnold isn't awful, or they get Jimmy Garoppolo or whatever. The Denver Broncos, traded their pick away, right? Because they, I guess maybe the Commanders at 11 have the biggest chance within the top 10 to make the playoffs. But like most of those teams, you're playing for the future. And if you think that he's the best receiver in the draft with his skills, you're not worried about the first 2-3 weeks of the season.
Yeah, I still think the Commanders they downgraded this year. So
what do y'all think about my prediction of just one quarterback in the first round this year?
I think you're right.
I think it makes a lot of sense, but it's hard to, I guess, get behind that because a lot of GMs overrate quarterbacks for some reason. And we see this happen every year. I remember there was a year where it was like Jake Locker, EJ Manuel, just some awful quarterbacks going in the top 10. And everybody knew they were awful. It wasn't like a secret. They still got drafted that
Christian Ponder was in that draft.
Like,
also, somebody's nerves might get to him. You know what I mean? So they might be sitting there going, he's going to get to me. He's going to get to me. And then something happens. There's a warm breeze or something. And they go, I think they're going to take him. So they're like, we need to move up 2 spots. You know what I mean? So, there could be that. I don't.
It's draft time. I got to pay homage to Draft Day, the movie, which awesome. They're going to find out that nobody went to the kid's 21st birthday party. And they're not going to draft him.
But no, we started the show talking about DJ in New York. No one saw him going 6th overall. And to this day, if we went back and redid that draft, he would not be the 6th pick overall. But somehow Gettleman thought, you know what? The Senior Bowl, that captain, let me get him at 6. The kid that we worked out at tight end at the combine, we need him to be our quarterback. So, but yeah, I feel like some GM is going to do it. As far as Matt Corral, Pickett, we keep hearing about him going to Carolina, so I wouldn't be surprised. I think we're going to probably have 3 quarterbacks going to first because GM's just going to do GM stuff, I guess.
Could you see the New York Giants doing something like this? Be like, we got to get Pickett. We got to get Pickett. We got to have an option just in case.
He was running, and then he stopped, and then he started running again. Oh my God, we got to draft him.
Excuse this comment, but they're not wide enough at the quarterback position yet.
I don't know what's going on.
No, dude, I totally feel it, bro. Imagine if they got a little flavor, a little soul in their position. I mean, what would happen in New York? I mean, you know what I mean? Oh, geez. Oh, it's just like
it's going to be interesting how that moves, and I think maybe Jonathan, you might be right with teams like maybe Detroit, right? Like they're not going to take a quarterback at 2, but they can move back in from the second round into the first round to get a quarterback and get that 5th-year option. So there might be some teams along those lines.
Why did Eli Manning get the watch commercials? That guy doesn't look classy enough to wear a watch. You know what I mean? Like, it's all because he played New York. I'm telling you, New York is just a trash place. They got trash teams.
Super Bowl rings can afford you things.
Dude, they fell into 2 Super Bowls. Holy Nikes. Like, how?
The helmet catch was in the playbook. He said, I'm going to throw it off your helmet, and you catch this pass, and we win. That was in the playbook.
You'd have a different tune if you watched Man in an Arena. Like that was a good documentary, and it documented both those things. And so I don't think they fell into anything. I think they flat out beat the Patriots that year.
Yeah, they almost did in Week 17 that year, right?
Yeah.
Like it was Week 17. They almost won that game, and then they came back and beat them in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, Strahan said that they didn't even practice that week to play the Patriots. They just showed up because they said they couldn't move up or down in the standings that week. And so they said, hey, we're not going to have a game plan. We're not going to show them anything we can do. We're just going to play street yard ball, and they almost beat them.
I think Justin Tuck is an unsung hero from that team. They had 4 guys in their defensive line that could get after Tom Brady, and I think that had a lot to do with it too.
I think Eli Manning is just as talented as Jimmy G, and they both have the same amount of Super Bowl rings.
Eli Manning is more talented than Jimmy G. He has a way better arm than Jimmy G ever has.
I'm not saying that, but he's trash. He's just. I'm sure.
Trash and win 2 rings and be top 10 in most statistical things for your career. You can't be trash.
I'm sure only his brother can sit in the same room as him and have fun.
Compare Eli Manning to who's the quarterback in New York for the Jets? I think his name is Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson. Oh, that piece of crap. Yeah, Zachary Whiny Wilson.
Got a nice buzz going. Let's hear more about it.
Well, I'd actually like to talk about Ray McLeod. I mean,
let's get going.
no,
on
I'm
the
actually really
AFC
excited
preview.
for Ray.
Let's get going on the AFC preview. So we talked about the NFC a couple weeks ago. Let's talk about who we think is going to win the division in each of these divisions. Kind of maybe do a little fast ramble style here since we're over an hour already. The AFC East right here, obviously you get the Bills, Patriots, Dolphins, and Jets. So before the pretty tough division, Miami making moves. Patriots look good for most of the season. Obviously the Bills are the favorite with my pick, as one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, maybe MVP next season, Josh Allen. Who do you guys have winning this division? We'll start with Chewy.
Bills. Josh Allen.
This is a battle for second. Okay. I think this is a battle for second with the Patriots and Miami. I think McDaniel's going to give him a run for his money.
And I'm going Buffalo. Agree with everything you said. Josh Allen is that guy. I know he had a lot of accuracy issues coming out of college, and the people didn't see improvement. But that second, third year, that improvement wasn't crazy. He's an MVP caliber quarterback with one of the top 5 receivers in the NFL. So it's only going to get better.
And I got Baller's pick. He's picking the Jets. He says Zach Wilson for over 5,000 yards, taking that division. So
I actually don't see that.
Another tough division here. Obviously, the Ravens had with the North. The Ravens had injury problems, most injury-prone team last season. So they're the wild card. You got the Browns with Deshaun Watson, Amari Cooper. The Steelers are always good, and the Bengals, obviously, the darlings of the AFC North. This division seems pretty tough to pick. We might have some different ones here. Jonathan, why don't you start, and we'll go the other way around.
I'm going Baltimore for what you just said. They had half of that roster on injured reserve, and they were still within range of the playoffs. And you look at how many games they lost by 1 or 2 points because they couldn't get a 2-point conversion. They would have been in the playoffs, even with losing all-pro after all-pro after all-pro before the season even started. And you got Lamar in a contract year, so he's going to be playing out of his mind, trying to make sure he gets that next $50 million deal. So I'm going Baltimore on this one.
Cincinnati Bengals. They're going to be rolling. It depends on what they do in the draft. They made some moves already that I think they needed to make. They go deep on offensive line in the draft and maybe put a couple other wide receivers around Burrow. I think it's clear and set. I don't know. I have a feeling that the Ravens are on their down slope right now.
As usual, Ryan, you're wrong. So Cincinnati had the worst offensive line in football last year, gave up the most sacks, most hits of any team, I think, ever in history. And their offensive line got worse this offseason. They let some of their best offensive linemen go. So I think they're on the decline. And my man Jonathan over there has it right. Lamar Jackson's going to ball out. He was banged up a lot of last season. Ravens taking this division. Lamar Jackson is going to put his foot back in the MVP door. I think we might be talking about Lamar Jackson getting a second MVP as a pro quarterback. Ravens next season.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. I think their wide receiver, the core though, is going to be as strong. We'll see if they need any big launches from Bateman or Hollywood Brown. Andrews can't really take them. I know they're a running team, so all the running backs were injured. So how well do they come off these injuries? Lucky for them, some of them were early in the season, so those running backs should be fresh. So I think there's a lot of question marks with the injury prone and how much of those teams come back, and their wide receivers have to take a big jump. I think that the Steelers are going to have a good defense, but I think Mitch Trubisky will do a better job than Big Ben, but I don't think it's enough to overtake them. I'm going to go wild card here. I'm going to go Cleveland Browns win that division. And I think the reason being is that run game is crazy. They have two of the best running backs in football. They actually have a quarterback who can extend the play there.
For half the season, maybe.
We'll see.
Yeah,
but,
we don't even know yet.
I'm assuming that he's playing the full season in this one. And if he does, I think, like I said, Amari Cooper could be 1,410. And Njoku might have a more a better season there with a quarterback that's more consistent. I mean, I'm not a Baker Mayfield hater, but there's obviously a talent discrepancy between him and Watson, and I think Watson is going to be on the urge to go for like 5,050. I think he's just going to want to make sure that the league knows that they made a mistake, and I think that he has a chance as well to rival Josh Allen for MVP next season if he plays the full 17. So let's go into the South here. Tennessee, Colts, Houston, and the Jaguars. We could probably debate who will be last place as much as we could debate first place in this one. So do you think the Texans have a shot, or is it just Tennessee and the Colts?
Well, forget all those teams, man. Like Christian Kirk, $20 million wide receiver, man.
Why not just pay him 30?
So, okay, enough of that. Yeah, no, that's not happening, obviously. This is a Colts division. Like you guys all talked about, Stephon Gilmore, you brought in Matt Ryan, have a strong running game, the league's leading rusher last year. Colts are going to win this division. Tennessee, I think they're actually on the decline. You know, they don't have Julio Jones anymore. A.J. Brown, who knows if they're going to have him. King Henry, he is starting to get up there a little bit. Ryan Tannehill kind of imploded at the end of the season last year. So to me, I think the Colts are going to win this division, and it's going to be pretty easily.
Yeah, I think the same. And the reason why I'm not giving Tennessee as much credit is because I think Derrick Henry's he's not bulletproof anymore. And I don't see him having a season the way he runs and as much as they use him without missing 2 to 4 games. You know what I mean? I think that might be a thing from now on. And then when you have to mainly rely on Ryan Tannehill, who is a very serviceable quarterback in that scheme, you know what I mean? I think that's where the holes start showing. You know what I mean? And it's sad, but they need to find another back. They need to get a fullback and put him in as they need to figure something out. To get an offensive guard who's a little small and really fast, something. You're going to have to figure out something to be able to replicate that kind of a hit, that kind of a monstrous flow out of the backfield like Derrick Henry.
I'm right on board with it, but I think this will be a clean sweep. India, I think, especially with the addition of Matty Ice, you have stability at the quarterback position. You don't have Carson Wentz running in circles and just throwing the ball over his back behind them. So as long as you have a
PI.
So you got a quarterback that's going to keep everything going in the right direction. You have the league leading rusher and the defense that feeds off of turnovers. I can see them winning it pretty easy. Part of me wants to root for Jacksonville because it's just you want to root for Trevor Lawrence and the young team and a young squad. You want to see what they have, but they have a quarterback change, a head coaching change. So it's hard to rely on them too much. But I think Indy's going to go ahead and take this one.
I agree, but I'm going to make the case for Tennessee. And just so to play some devil's advocate here, I think that King Henry's the king until he's no longer. And I think he was far and above the best running back last year until he got injured. Julio Jones was a shell of himself last season. A.J. Brown showed that he was still a dominant receiver when he was on the field. And so they have Robert Woods. They got a Robert Woods for a trade. Obviously, he's coming back from an injury, but he's still a quality wide receiver. They have the 26th pick overall, so they could go wide receiver in the end of the first round to help bolster that offense, and running back in the third, pick overall 90. You have some running backs like James Cook in that realm, and get a 1-2 punch to help alleviate Derrick Henry not having to carry the ball 300-something times. Obviously, McMichael wasn't that guy, and you have a team that can compete. I mean, obviously, Tannehill, which is probably what Ryan is riding over here, is still a top 5 quarterback in this league. But
what top 5?
I was just trying to get you to stop writing something over there.
Oh, you meant top 5 in the division. Okay.
Yeah.
Top 5
yeah.
in the division.
Exactly what I meant. But I think that kind of thing there. And I don't think the Colts they have some pieces too. We talked about this. Obviously, Pittman's a good receiver, but I would say AJ Brown is better. They both have good running games, and so I really think the draft is going to be where the team maybe can separate themselves. Who gets the better wide receiver pick? Who makes the additional stuff there? And I said I'm just making a case. I still pick the Colts. I said I was just playing devil's advocate. This is what it's called, dialogue over there, big beard. So we're trying to move it along here to a different division where we can tell how much Ryan doesn't know about football. And this is the AFC West, the Kansas City Chiefs, Raiders, Chargers, and Broncos. And this is going to be probably the toughest division along with the North to pick here. A lot of movement, probably the best division as far as pure quarterback play in all of football. Jonathan, why don't you start us off? Who are you taking to take this one?
This is almost impossible to pick with all the great moves that have been made in this offseason. I'm going to defer to coaching, so I'm going to go with Andy Reid. Kansas City, you got an amazing team put together there. You lost Tyreek, which is going to be a huge hit, but you still have the best tight end in the NFL. You have arguably the best quarterback in the
slander.
Arguably the best
erroneous on all counts
in the NFL.
Mute him.
I think he's I want to say he was like a offsides away from being in the last several Super Bowls or AFC championships. So I mean, it's just you got to deflect the coaching because there's so much talent in this division. I wanted to say the Chargers, but that coach he proved to us last year that he's going to be the thing that holds them back. So I'm going Chiefs.
All right, go ahead, Ryan.
So I want to say the Chiefs also, and it's not necessarily about the coaching. It's the fact that the whole team has been together the longest, and they've been running on all cylinders essentially for the most part. So they're going to be the ones who are it's just another season. You know what I mean? They're going to be at the top of their thing. They're still scary. Anytime Mahomes has the ball in his hand and somebody can run down the field, you're in trouble. You know what I mean? Because he can extend the play to the point where you can't cover somebody for 12 seconds. So, you know what I mean? You're screwed. When it comes to the Raiders, they're still okay. How effective is Devontae Adams going to be right out the gate? You know what I mean? Is the chemistry still going to be there? You know, we don't know that. You know what I mean? And you know, you've only got one and a half other true receivers to go to. So you know what I mean? And then you've got Denver Broncos, and you're talking about can Russell really, you know, is he going to pick up I'm sure Russell will have the offense behind, you know, like all memorized by that time. But who knows if Russell likes the flow of how things are being called. You know what I mean? So that might be something, you know what I mean? Because he likes things done a certain way. So there might be certain things and growing pains there in Denver. So I think it's really going to come down to who's been together the longest.
You remember Russell Wilson when he broke his hand and he was out there practicing against air before that game? He's doing that right now as you're sleeping. So he'll have that offense now, and he wants you to know it.
Like I said, I'm not saying that, but still, there's things like timing and such. Like he doesn't have a wide receiver like Lockett on his team right now. You know what I'm saying? So these wide receivers are going to
together. By the way, just so you know, they all got together and practiced already. There was already video of that.
No, I understand that, but you don't get 6 years of scramble drills experience off of 1 or 2 weeks. Okay.
I agree with you, Ryan. So hey, I agree with you, man. Don't let these guys.
Hey, wait. We need to mark this occasion.
I agree with you there.
Cheers.
When it comes
as
to the
far
Broncos,
as that's like an if.
when it comes to the Broncos, I agree with you there. As Randon said, I think this is going to be the best division of football. I predict there'll probably be two playoff teams out of this division. There may be a third fighting for the last wild card spot, so there could be 3 playoff teams in this division. So it's almost impossible to pick it. But I disagree with y'all. I think it's going to be the Las Vegas Raiders. I think they're going to win this division. the additions they made on offense, Devontae Adams. They made the playoffs last year, guys. After all the crap that they went through, Derek Carr is a true leader. That guy is like legit. No matter what y'all say, whenever the John Gruden situation happened, whenever the Henry Ruggs situation happened, Derek Carr did everything right. He supported Henry Ruggs in an unsupportable accident, right? He still supported him, but he did it in the right way. He kept that team together. He willed them to the playoffs last year. And to me, he's a lot better quarterback than a lot of people give him credit for. You give him Devontae Adams.
Agreed there. I think he's way higher than, at least on my board. Yeah.
Right. So you give him Devontae Adams, Darren Waller, the running game that they're going to have. If they can put it together in the draft and get some defensive help, this team is going to win this division. I'm predicting about 12 wins for the Raiders this year. I think the rest of the division is going to be battling for 9 or 10 because they're going to kind of move it up a little bit.
What did you put?
Carr's a New York Giant. I'm telling you, he deserves to be on that team. He'd go well there.
I don't think Jonathan wants him to be a New York Giant.
You sell a lot of watches.
I'm telling you that much. But for reals, like I think they're going to be the team to beat. I say they're going to win 12 games. The rest of the division is going to be everybody's going to beat themselves up so much in the division. The rest are going to be lucky to get to 10 wins. But the Raiders, to me, are going to win the division, and it's because of Derek Carr and then the moves they've made this offseason.
Ooh, you think the division's going out of the Death Star in Las Vegas? I'm going to choose the Chargers, and I think that Herbert's going to continue to take that next step. They have, I think, one of the most versatile running backs in Eckler. The signing of J.C. Jackson, right, as far as locking down a lot of the other wide receivers in that league is going to be huge. They also got Khalil Mack, and so I think their defense is going to take that next step. If you look at their team stats offensively last year, they were better than Kansas City in most offensive stats. In Kansas City, I think the loss of Tyreek Hill is going to be, more than what a lot of people think. That after the ball scrambling drills that you see that them do, and Tyreek and him are on the same page with Mahomes, and I think that Kelsey is still waiting for Father Time to kick him in the booty. I don't think Juju Smith-Schuster is going to be the guy that can carry that team. And so if Kelsey is getting harbored by age and Hill is gone, it's going to be up to Mahomes to do it all himself, and he can do that. But it showed that he tried to do that in the playoffs, and they lost to the Bengals. And I think the Chargers got better. They were better offensively last year than the Chiefs. And I think defensively, you're looking at they get Khalil Mack, who is obviously a pass rusher, but he's good in the run game. They addressed it in the interior by signing 2 defensive linemen in the interior to help with their really bad run game. And J.C. Jackson is going to harp that thing down. And I think that Herbert takes that next step and they win that division there.
So what do you think about the coach last year? You can go to the playoffs if you just pretty much iced the game. You just ended in a tie. I think the Raiders wanted you to tie it. Everybody wanted you to be a tie, but you had to be you. And you had to go out there and blow it. Do you think that coach is built for it? Do you think he can go head-to-head with Josh McDaniels and Andy Reid?
I mean, Andy Reid was one of the best coaches in the NFL, and he didn't win until his 60s. So, I mean, people progress in time, and so he'll probably learn from that. I mean, coaches watch as much film as anybody else, and so I can't say for sure that he will.
Andy Reid would never make that decision to not just make it a tie. Let's go.
I don't know about that. I agree with Randy.
Andy Reid's one of the most aggressive coaches in football.
When he was with the Eagles too,
you can be aggressive in the first game of the playoffs.
No, when Andy Reid was with the Eagles, one of the biggest knocks on him was his clock management and all of that. Like that was one of the biggest things. He was considered the best coach to never win a Super Bowl until he finally won it because of Patrick Mahomes. I think Andy Reid did have that. He had that stigma on him until he finally had Patrick Mahomes to go win him a Super Bowl. So I agree.
Yeah.
I think they can get better. Hopefully he learns from it, right? But it's really up to him. Are you going to learn from it or you're not? because there's a coach in San Francisco that hasn't learned from his mistakes, and he keeps making the same mistakes every.
Run the damn ball, Kyle.
He seems to hate his really good players too. He pisses off a good player at least one a season. This feels like.
Right.
All right, so this is a bonus question, and usually I don't know if it happened last year, but over the last 17 years before that, 80% of the time, a team that was in last place ends up winning the division, just because how free agency and stuff works. Obviously, I don't think anybody's picking the Jets or the Jaguars, but if you were to put your money on the Raiders or the Ravens winning that division, who are you going to pick?
Raiders.
The Ravens. So that's pretty.
So I picked both of these teams to win the division, but I'm going to go with the Ravens just because I think their division won't be as challenging. I think the AFC West is going to be the toughest division. Any one of those four teams could really win the division. So I'm going to go with the Ravens. I think they have a better shot. They have a realistic shot, and I picked them. So when they win it, I was right.
Me too.
Ryan, you said Raiders?
Yep.
Me, Ravens.
And I go Ravens too. So nice. Well, thanks guys for coming on. This is a long and great episode. Some good laughs, some good beers being drunken. And obviously everybody's waiting for the draft. We'll have our post-draft show next week. I don't know who's hosting it. We'll figure that out and post it on Twitter. Is it going to be Chewy? Chewy's locking that one down. So if you guys are listening, subscribe to all the channels in the description there. All of our Twitter handles are on your big screen. So like and subscribe there. And we'll see you guys next week on Chewy's channel for our post-draft recap. Thank you guys and cheers.
Peace.